Welcome back to the channel. A week on now from Powerman Zofingen. Literally this time last week I'd have been finished by this time last week, but haven't had a chance to do a bit of a race review, and a bit of a review of the trip out to Switzerland and out to Zofingen. So thought about time to do that. Legs still just about recovering. I've taken a couple of weeks off training now, just at the end of the season. I thought it'd be a good time as well. Now we've got British champs sort of midway through October, and there's another duathlon in November that I might be doing as well, so I thought it'd be a good chance now just to get a couple of weeks downtime. Didn't want to leave it too late on into the year before having a couple of weeks off, so thought I'd just do a bit of a review of the trip to Zofingen and the race itself. So flew out last Thursday morning. Well, I sort of travelled out with my mum Thursday, flew from Heathrow Terminal 5, so I drove down on Thursday. I think the flight was around 1:15, something like that, I think. So yeah, from Heathrow, packed up the bike the weekend before, so that was all ready and done. So I took it down in the Allen bike box. It's a really good bike box, to be fair. If anyone's looking for a triathlon specific bike box, really recommend the Allen boxes, and especially the triathlon specific one, which is really good. Especially not so much for me. My bike and the front end is still a little bit long to sort of get into fully into the box without dismantling a few bits, but for most people it's a pretty good system. So yeah, we flew out on Thursday. Nice trip down. Flight was pretty good, to be fair, although there was a bit of a delay in Heathrow, but nice to get there at a reasonable time, and not get up too early as well. I think we left about half past 6, so flight was pretty good, except for the bit of a delay on Heathrow side. I think there was some bad weather over in Switzerland, in Zofingen itself, actually in Zurich. So, but we flew out, got there, got picked up from the airport from Nirvana, a lovely guy there that was with us for a few days that we were out there, in terms of like he was acting like the mechanic and the chauffeur and so forth. So Nirvana are sort of the travel partner for British Triathlon. They do a lot with Ironman races as well, so booked the hotel with them, which also meant then I got the transfer from Zurich over to Offringen, I think it's pronounced, which is a couple of miles from Zofingen, where the race was held. So yeah, we flew in. The weather wasn't looking great when we got to got to Zurich, but we were about an hour or so out from the airport to get to where the hotel was, which was like a Holiday Inn sort of hotel, which was pretty nice. The rooms weren't too big, to be fair. Stayed at nicer hotels in that sense, but it was a really clean hotel, comfy bed, comfy pillows, just a bit tight in terms of the space actually in the hotel itself, especially when you were sort of putting your bike together and things like that. So once we got there, we went out for a nice pizza on day one, sort of like in the evening. Just got a nice bit of pizza, Coca-Cola, and just had a bit of a chilled evening. Then on the Friday, sort of Friday morning, day 2, unpacked the bike box, started putting that together. Learned a few tips and tricks with the bike as well, which is really useful. So I normally take the rear hanger off or the rear mech off. Last year I was a little bit more tricksy, so this year I actually took the hanger itself out from the frame and kept the mech attached to the hanger, which meant that actually putting it back in, you knew it was all going back into the same spot, into the same place, and you weren't having to faff around too much. So and then what I do is I take the hanger out and then attach it to the through axle from the rear end of the rear wheel. So the back end was pretty easy then. And then in terms of the front end as well, I literally took the head unit off as well, which was haven't done before. Because I've got the SRAM wireless blips now on the front, the whole system's fully wireless from the rear mech all the way through to the front end. So literally on the Factor Hanzo, you've got the fork blade that comes out of the top, and you can literally just take the stem off, keep everything full. So all my drag 2.0 bars and everything, didn't have to dismantle, and then when I got the other side I could just put the stem back on, so which makes it a lot more easier when transporting. You know, nothing's going to move, you haven't got to set up the handlebars into the different positions, so that was really good. So we had breakfast in the hotel, so that was really nice. And then on the Friday, I met up with a guy called Brian, who actually runs for Western Tempo, who I know really well. He's actually done Zofingen quite a few times, so it was great to have him out talking us through the course and stuff. And then we also met up with a lady called Rachel Brown, who's actually a female elite. So we did the bike recce with her and Brian, which was really good. So first time that Rachel had been out as well, but she podiumed at Alsdorf at the World Champs earlier on in the year. I think she was second there as well. So hopefully she was going to have a good race. So yeah, we managed to get a good loop, 50 kilometres in. So I cycled down, met them there, and then we did the 50k loop, and then I cycled back afterwards. And then on the Friday evening again, just went out, had some nice food. But the bike course was nice. The roads were just super smooth. 2 good inclines on the Zofingen circuit, so one sort of coming out of the transition a couple of mile in, and it's a nice little incline up to one point, which then you drop right back down, and then work through some lovely roads and little villages, and then you hit another sort of second incline a little bit later on as well. So the first two major climbs as such, they're on the first half of the course, so probably about 20 kilometres in to 25 kilometres in, you've pretty much done both of the big climbs, and then the rest of the circuit is a little bit more, a little bit flatter, a little bit faster. So we just did the one loop around the course. I didn't do the run course, mainly because I had a little bit of an issue with my knee the week before, so I was just being a little bit mindful of that. It had settled completely down, I think, so I wasn't too worried about it after the panic I had the week before, but I didn't want to risk that. On the Saturday, we just chilled out really. I'd picked the numbers up on the Friday night, so Saturday I just had a bit of a relax, a little bit of a chill out. Didn't do too much, to be fair. And then on the Sunday morning, got ready for the race. When we woke up in the morning, it was a red sky, looked really beautiful, to be fair. Went down, had some porridge in the morning, so I normally have my sort of ready mixed porridge, which I had, and then went down and just had a bit of breakfast as well. In terms of race nutrition, normally using Torque Fuel, but for this race I went with precision hydration, mainly because of the flow gel and just making it so much easier to get the nutrition down on the bike. So that was a 300 gram of carbs, I think it is, in the bottle. So it's just the flow gel's like 300 grams, so it's equivalent to about 10 tubes or 10 gels, I think. So the idea was just to drink all of that gel throughout the ride, as well as having then my sort of Torque energy drink as well. So, and obviously water in and around that. Something I really need to work on in terms of nutrition and those sorts of things. So, but it actually, I think I went okay on this race. I did an Ironman a few years ago and just completely, just misjudged all the nutrition and drinking, and it wasn't pleasant. So really wanted to make sure I was drinking and also getting the equivalent gels in. So I got all that prepped, and then got my gels ready for the runs as well, and then cycled down to the course, which is a couple of mile. Didn't do any run warm up or anything like that, mainly again because of the knee. I think in hindsight, feeling how the quads are now, probably could have done with a good warm up, I think, and probably wasn't the best thing to do in terms of going into the first run a little bit cold. But yeah, in terms of the race started at just after, I think it was 9:03, so The elite women went off at 8. The age groups went off at 8:03 in terms of the females, and then the male elites went off at 9. And the age group men went off, I think it was 9:03 and then 9:06. They split the waves up into two different sections. So I went off with the first half and the younger guys. First run sort of went okay, I think. I didn't want to push it on too much. So running 6:30, 7-minute mile in, maybe a little bit under. A couple of phases were a bit quicker, but there's a couple of really steep little sort of downhill inclines. I think, to be fair, I don't think the legs enjoyed them whatsoever. I came into the first run, feeling pretty good, but had to really ease back on some of the downhills. I'm just, for whatever reason, the legs just, whether it's training, whether it's just the strength and conditioning in the quads, I'm not sure. Whether it's not warming up properly, but the quads don't seem to take too well on to a lot of hill running. Maybe it's something, if you're going out there and doing something like that again, needs to maybe do a summer of fell running or something, just get used to running downhill a little bit more. Had the same when I raced a few months ago over in Wales in the UK for the Slate Man, which I won, but the legs just were crippled for about a week or so. So I'm not really sure, whether I'm really doing the specific training to get the best out of that. I tend to run better on the flatter, faster sort of courses. But I tried just to be a bit mindful. Got onto the bike and I was biking pretty well after the first transition. I'd got my second gel in. I'd had a gel before the first run. Had a gel then on the way in for the transition, and then got out onto the bike and was riding pretty well for the first lap. I think at that point I was probably with the podium positions. I was probably first, second, third, in and around there, like jostling with a couple of other 45 to 50-year-old guys. I think I was probably second Brit as well. At this point, it was one of the younger guys, and I think maybe the 20 to 25 age group had just got away on the first run. And I was hoping, that maybe I could ride back through it, hopefully. The first loop went pretty well. I think by the end of the first lap, there was a pretty nice group of us actually, and there was a couple of guys from my age category as well within that group. There was a French guy and I think a German guy. But coming through into the second lap through the transition, just trying to get some nutrition, I sort of started to lose the back end of that group, just not picking up the water that well through that point, and lost that sort of train of people up into the climb. I was sort of with them, but then midway, early through the second lap, started to lose that pack, which is really unfortunate because I think that's where the race was really going in terms of my age group. But sort of midway through that second lap, my quads just didn't feel great. So I sort of tried to just throttle back a little bit, because I went through pretty spot on the pace that I thought that I could ride through that first lap. I was hoping to ride around a 4 hour 4:10. The average there we went through, and it looked like I was going to split about that, which was good. Come the second lap, it started to, the quads just didn't feel great, and I don't know whether that was the couple of real little downhills on the first run that had just got into the quads a little bit. I generally would have found the rides that I've been doing at home, and when I did the 100 mile TT a few weeks earlier on in the summer in the UK, I had no real issues with the quads as such. So something's happened on the first run there that's just tightened them up. And I think then by the time I sort of started to come around into the third lap, the quads were just not feeling great. So that third lap was sort of like, I eased back quite a bit, stretched out, just tried to make sure I was getting the nutrition. I was still riding pretty well, wasn't riding bad, just not really where I was hoping that I would be sort of riding towards, especially in terms of the watts that I was pushing as well. So especially the way I've been riding this year, I've been riding really well, especially on the sort of TTs and stuff. So not sure whether it's a distance thing. Like I said, I'm not sure whether it was just the first run and a couple of downhills there that had just got some lactic or just pulled the quads slightly. I'm not sure, but so I came into transition after the bike, probably around 5th in my age category or something like that, hoping that maybe I could just do something on the run. Started the first run, or the first lap. The run's based 4 laps. There's a couple of good hills again on the final run. It's quite a challenging run, to be fair. It's not flat fast. It is very undulating with a couple of like real steep little climbs. On the first run, we actually came down the steep hill that we ran up, which is probably better running up, to be fair, than running back down. And yeah, the first lap wasn't too bad, but the quads weren't great, and it was just every time I was pushing down, the quads were just tight. I felt pretty good within myself, just that running technique and that running motion. I just couldn't get the flow going on the run, and was probably running at least a minute mile slower than what I was hoping for on that final run. So in the end, I was sort of just getting myself round, and I was hoping to run probably around 2 hours for the final run, but I ended up running about 2:20 in the end, and probably in total I was probably around 25-30 minutes down on where I was hoping to sort of finish in terms of time wise. I think I was drinking pretty well on the run. I had another flow gel and that I was racing with as well, a running one, so like a pouch that you put the flow gel into, and then I was just using that, which worked really well, drinking plenty of water as well. So just in terms of hydration and the rest of my body felt great. I'm still suffering now with the quads, so I'm not sure on the first run whether I've actually really pulled them or just strained them slightly. They're still not feeling great at the moment, a week later, so I'm hoping I've got 2 weeks off, another week, they just sort of should ease back. Sometimes when you're not running or you're not cycling, I think sometimes that can be a bit worse than actually when you are getting a little bit of active sort of recovery through them. So we'll see how it goes, but all in all, I finished 6th in my category. I actually managed to I was actually first Brit home overall in terms of the age group men, which was really great. So really quite proud of myself for that, but also pretty disappointed that this was the big race of the year. Really hoping to get that sort of podium that I'm missing. I've had a podium on the Nationals, British Champs, Europeans, and I was really hoping this year to sort of try and get that podium in the Worlds. So that was the big goal. So unfortunately, I missed out with an 8th place at Germany earlier on in the year, which again down to some issues there with my knees. But I'm not sure in terms of this race this week or last weekend. I need to just sit down and evaluate what happened there. Felt pretty good physically, but the quad's just not enjoying those sorts that sort of terrain and that downhill running. So I think if ever I'm doing another course like that, I really need to evaluate. Yeah, how do I get the best out of myself running on those types of terrain? So, but in fairness, it was a pretty tough day. Weather was pretty warm. Some of the guys were dropping out. Some people were finishing in a real in a real state. So I'm pleased that actually I got across the line. I felt pretty good physically. It's just that the quads just weren't complying, and really made it difficult on that final run to do anything and push on with any real sort of conviction. So yeah, so that's it for I suppose the season as such, although I have got the British Champs in a few weeks. But in terms of season to season, and yeah, a good 12 months of racing and training there. I've got this 2 weeks off now, and then in theory sort of building towards next year, which we're still not sure what I'm going to do yet. whether I drop back down and just concentrate on getting some standard distance races in at the Europeans and the Worlds, and possibly go to the Powerman Alsdorf. Don't think I'll do Zofingen again next year. I think I might concentrate on some of the shorter stuff. Just see if I can also get these TT times just a bit quicker as well. So yeah, thanks for watching. Like and subscribe if you haven't. Hope you enjoyed the video, and see you all soon.